Welcome to Perspective Check with Precious. This is the first episode while we are on tour with Perspective Precious. We're going on tour with different social groups to talk about different perspectives and to gain insight. I have a group of individuals with me here. And I just want to take a moment and give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Precious Perspective.
I am Jennifer Awesomebrook.
That's right. Receive me.
I can't.
That's right. That's right. I am Pablo Tubbs and brother to Precious Time.
It's Andrea. Go by Drea. Yes. Hello.
That's right. That's right.
Typically in environments and in moments where there's dialogue and discussion happening, I just have this innate gift to be able to bring perspective to any and all situations. That's my gift, and I just want to share with the world to be able to really give perspective to situations and what is happening in your life. Because a lot of times what I've come to the understanding is if you can see differently, then you can live differently.
Yeah.
It can be the defining moment of the change in your life, really just how you view things and see things. And so a little bit of what we're going to dive into today is we're going to really be talking about when it comes to perspective, the understanding that your life from the time you were born up until now, your upbringing, your environment, your interactions with different individuals throughout your life, school, workplace, all of these things have helped to shape you into who you are today, but also how you view the world, as well as your belief systems.
Yeah.
And so today, I have the luxury of working with these individuals on a day-to-day basis. And so we're going to talk a little bit about perspective in having diversity in a workspace and what that looks like coming together in a workspace. Everybody has a different background. I'm talking about from socially to church, dive a little bit into just what that looks like and how easy it is to have misunderstandings or even like offense may come up. They start talking about people get sensitive and just different microaggressions and things of that nature. Coming into what has been your experience coming into a workspace and then what it looks like dealing with the diversity that comes into that?
Yeah. I think because my personality is always so very, and I think her name is Jennifer, but I call her PJ.
That's right.
You got to know her to call her PJ.
Yeah.
I think, PJ, you can attest to this. When coming into our workplace, I think my personality was so just large. And PJ has always been just kind of quiet and in her shell. But even with different cultures, I personally, and this is just me, I feel like leaders, their presence should be felt more than it's heard. And so I love for my presence of laughter, a comedic relief, joy that I bring to be something that changes the culture and the atmosphere. And I think a testimony of that for me personally has been PJ, because I think that made my goal. When I got there, I said, PJ, she got to talk more than me.
Oh, I love that.
He has so much good perspectives with thoughts
Love
and
that.
prophetic insight that I think we need in our work meetings. And I said, she ain't just here to take notes. Come on and talk. This is how you know PJ is about to say something. She like, huh? And so when coming into different cultures and work environments, I think it's just good to allow who you are to show up authentically.
Yeah.
Because not only are you there to, do a job, but who you are as a leader should be felt much more than it's heard in what you do and say, but allow that leadership to be felt.
That's good.
Yeah. I think for me, so it was interesting for me because they've already been working together. Actually, when you step into an environment like that, you're like, okay, I just kind of got to feel it out, see what's going on. Because although we've been going to church, it's different when we're now in the office together. It's an everyday thing. So just kind of, figuring out how that works. But I love what you said about it's just showing up authentically. So you're showing up to this new environment. Of course, naturally you feel maybe you have to be a little bit reserved, but as time goes on, you feel more comfortable. You open up and it's like, I do have something to offer. I do have something to say. And so just being able to put that out into this kind of atmosphere too, that I'm just coming into, I think has been really cool.
It's really good. Even in thinking about just how you first show up, how you first come in, like being new and everything.
Yeah.
For me, speaks to upbringing.
Yeah,
For sure.
Because, you grow up with the whole children being seen.
For sure.
That's right.
So in carrying that into adulthood, it's just like, my God, let me just, come in, slide, do
Right.
everything,
For sure.
And even when I worked in secular environments, people are always talking about how you're not supposed to make friends. Like, these are not your friends.
True. Hello, and church is from child.
Yeah.
And coming into that type of environment, working for a church is so free because you have people that will just stop and pray with you. Because I remember I was dealing with something one day, and Elder Drea, she saw me over there crying, and she just put her hand on me and just prayed. I mean, good. Love those type of environments.
Yeah.
And you're free to talk about the Lord, you're free to pray, worship music out in the open.
And for me, finding my dynamic and finding my flow, it's a minute to find my groove, but I feel like we found a good sweet spot because our personalities are very similar we're both outgoing go-getters,
Right.
but then also we have a lot of weight to our voices and we're both loud. So finding that sweet spot, even with us and our dynamic of coming to a table, because I know at one point we were like, child, it should need to be the me and this.
I think to that point, when you come into a work environment and a different culture and you are confident in who you are, you don't feel the need to have to do my job, your job, and right? I'm gonna play my part because that's what I'm here for. Now, of course, I can definitely help. This is a team environment. I can help and I can give my thoughts, but I'm gonna do my part and then allow every other person to shine in their area.
For sure.
Because I need to if I'm confident in whatever.
That's really good.
I've been in work environments and I'm used to a certain level of work ethic.
Right.
I have a very strong corporate background. So then in my mind,
That's good.
you respond to emails, answer text messages at a certain time. I'm walking in the door with certain expectations. One of the things I had to learn was not everybody comes from a corner background. Everybody don't know how to respond to emails. So there was a season I did with just text because I knew nobody was reading emails. So how do we, coming into these kind of situations then to understand that, this is my experience that's coming to the table.
Yeah.
Let me dial it back and give other people room and space. It's almost like, how do you become the agent of change? When you should be an agent of change and when you just let people be.
Yeah.
It's definitely necessary. Like when you're coming in and you have that sort of background and the professionalism and all of that, pulling people up to a certain standard.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I think that is one of the most important things you can do while also giving them the space to be them and give them space and grace to grow into that. Also set that standard and pull them up to.
And I think you can't, and this is more so me thinking of from a church perspective that I would also apply to the workplace. It's harder to ask for someone's hand when you haven't touched their heart. And I think oftentimes we think that from the sense of, I gotta buy you lunch, I gotta take you out, or whatever the case is. And some of those things can be like grand gestures and are good. But if I don't feel the support in a workplace emotionally, if I don't feel like you care about who I am, if I don't feel like you care about the 1,000 things that I have going on my work plate and you're demanding for things to be done by a certain date every single time, it's always so urgent that you don't give me the space to input when I can get something done, when you are just solely looking for someone's hand without touching their heart. It's hard to expect them to turn over to your expectations. Because that's when the heart starts to get hard. And we'll be talking to each other. I've been here longer than they. Bro. Don't come even on these big system. Right? It's true. Right? It is harder to do that. You haven't touched the person's heart in very simple ways. Like I said, it doesn't have to be I'm bringing coffee every morning. It doesn't have to be those grand gestures. But really, it could just be the consideration that you give to that person that makes it easier for them to at least give hearway to a different system that you're trying to implement or a different way that you're trying to do something, when I know that it's coming from a place that this person cares and not just trying to get me to move their agenda forward without caring about the things that I have.
Yeah, I think that relationship piece is so important. It just builds trust.
For sure.
And then I think, thankfully, in this kind of environment, we are like, some of us, we're friends, right? And so we have, we hang out outside of church. We understand each other. We know each other. And so that makes it easier to say, like, to be like, okay, they probably didn't mean that the way I'm receiving it. They didn't mean that the way that that's coming across. Let me just check myself and kind of like figure out what's going on where I need to kind of, okay, just hone in on that, because I know, okay, Khalil just talks like that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So when you have that understanding, I think it makes it easier. But yeah, building that in that relationship is super important.
And I'd say to that, building that rapport, coming in, being an agent of change, you have to understand building that rapport takes time.
Yeah.
And where I think many people coming into a new culture mess up is they want that timetable to be on their
sure.
rapport is on the timetable of the person that I'm trying to get to know.
For sure.
And it is a delicate balance when I have to get something done.
Yeah.
But I am still in the process of building that rapport.
Right.
Because if I have to get something done, and while I'm building the rapport and I don't do it in a way that makes the person feel like I care about you while still getting this thing done, then it just works adversely against me building. And now I start back at ground one.
Exactly.
So you have to allow that time to happen, recognizing that building the rapport is not something that you can determine. It's something that the other person tells you, often through the open door of intimacy with like conversation. I can trust you with more things that are beyond the surface of just coworkers. Those are some of the signs that you have built that rapport with somebody.
That's good. And so that kind of is a perfect segue to get into boundaries.
You love them at work.
And that could be multi-layered. I know for one, I've had to do my due diligence because I'm such a people person.
Yeah.
I love talking to people. I have to be like really, really disciplined in trying to make sure I don't interrupt the workflow. If it's too quiet, I come from a very family oriented environment. There's always something going on talking. So and a little bit of ADHD, because I need to be able to do both. I need background noise, and I need to be able to function. So I really hold the conversation and send an email at the same time.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. Then be working in an environment.
And I got to get something done.
This brother-sister in the office relationship is a man.
First week, you were like, oh, wow.
I definitely think one of the boundaries that the Lord is consistently and still working on me is that boundary of, when to text about work and when not to. This guy sees that I'm in production at rehearsal, and the MD's like, I need to know who of the special guests is bringing someone with them, and all the time, Jazz. I was like, oh, yes. Sometimes if I don't either put it in a note or something, it's gone. I mean,
I get that.
Yes. And one thing that I really try to pride myself on in the workplace is, yes, someone asks you to do something, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a boundary that if I'm okay to work because, I'm trying to get something done or whatever the case is, I can't cross that boundary for other people.
Yeah.
It could be with family, and I don't, to your point, want to make them feel, especially in my role and position at the church. One could feel like, oh man, if this is someone that is higher than me, then if they're texting about it, it must be important.
Yeah.
And even if it's not important in the moment, it's just important to me, but it can wait. That is a boundary that I've crossed for someone else, because now they feel or may feel like, oh, I got to do it because someone who's over me. So that's definitely a boundary that, for me personally, I'm definitely trying to just work on in certain times and seasons. But I do think that is a piece of perspective that someone could take with them if they are texting people.
Yeah. I will say communication is key with that, because I think communication is overly stated, hardly used. And to your defense, you did, when I first came on and took the role, you had a conversation with me and I think it was during Apex. You had a conversation with me and were like, hey, if there's anything that you are just like, hey, maybe this won't work, or can we maybe do this?
For sure.
You did talk to me about that. And so that gave me the opportunity to communicate if I had those boundaries. And so you can't read my mind. So it would be up to, that person to be able to verbalize. You would assume that it's okay. Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely get that piece about when someone that's over you texts you,
Yep.
because it always feel like it's urgent. I get it done.
Exactly.
Just visually right off to the races trying to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And even like thinking about boundaries. I had someone break a boundary.
Yeah.
And I want to say I had maybe a slight panic attack because like in that moment I felt like I couldn't breathe because I'm like, are they contacting me right back? Even in that, sometimes people don't intentionally break boundaries.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes they're just things that absolutely have to be done, and you're the person that takes care of it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then also in that recognizing and remembering how that person really feels about you.
Yeah.
Like so that they
That's good.
truly love you.
That's good.
And that they're not trying to hurt you by breaching that boundary. Especially when it's not like an always time. But just being able to come away from that and not treat the person differently, not look at them crazy, just staying in a place of maturity with them. And I feel like this is huge.
That is really big.
Yeah, when it comes to boundaries, just giving proper perspective, it's twofold because you can't set boundaries. You can't expect people to maintain boundaries that you didn't communicate.
Exactly.
It's important to be aware of these things and really check your lens because you may have boundaries that you don't even realize, like, oh, this is a hard step for me. I didn't know.
Right.
And then giving that individual that quote unquote breached your boundary, give them grace, and then you have a responsibility to then communicate. Say, hey, yeah, this is a boundary for me, and then be able to give language to, and not just mention it as a boundary, but then tell them what does work for you. Don't just say, oh, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Turn around and tell them what. That's what healthy communication looks like. And I think that's a good perspective to have when it comes to boundaries is one, you got to first communicate what those boundaries are.
Yeah.
And then extending grace to people for any reason they do break a boundary. Because things happen, like life happens. And especially in the workplace, like PJ was saying, you've got to trust your team, your coworkers, your leaders. You have to trust them and trust their heart, even when their hand is looking a little shaky. You got to trust that, that's where you got to lean on the history with that individual. Going back to what you were saying about that pillar, it has to be right. So if you can sit back and say, you know what, this doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
This is a one-off. And then like PJ said, taking into consideration, you know what they're asking me. Because sometimes you can be so thrown off by the infraction that you miss the big. So if you take a moment, take a deep breath, step outside. This is where objectivity comes from.
Right.
You have to step outside of yourself, step outside of your feelings and emotions, and then look at the bigger picture. And you are able to then make a real sound judgment in the situation.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, you probably got time. You probably can. It probably ain't that bad. Or there's a quick way to pivot and redirect, even if you're not available to do it. But I think that is a huge, huge point. Like it's twofold to boundaries.
Yeah.
You clear about those boundaries, but then leaving space, grace and mercy.
That's really good.
Mercy. So let's just, unpack boundaries. Let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to misread a moment. So an interaction, right? We just talked about boundaries, but let's talk about what it looks like to you're in the work environment and you just completely, because of your own background, your own experience, completely missed a moment. Like you just prejudged this moment and it just wasn't, it turned out not.
Right.
And a lot of times it can be because of trauma or your own, knee-jerk reaction.
I think when they happen, there is only one response. That one response is the road of humility and apology. And I think when we realize that we've misread a moment, no matter what your position or status is, and I would say especially if you are in a position of power, you misread, judge a moment, and you make a snap judgment, you say a thing that wasn't right in humility. Don't try to, this is what I meant type of thing. Or, right? Don't try to do any of those things.
That's good.
And in the same spirit, not what you said, people or said person, apologize. Because what you'll find is there is typically not a sincere apology that is not met with grace. A sincere apology. Because a sincere apology is not, I'm sorry that you felt that way.
Right.
A sincere apology is, I'm sorry that whatever I did, even if it wasn't intentional. Because, of course, I don't believe that people intentionally, especially if you're Christ-like, intentionally try to hurt someone, even with things that aren't intentional. A sincere apology that takes ownership and accountability is typically always met with grace.
It does. It shows you're willing to be wrong,
Right.
which I think is huge when it comes to especially like transparency and just working with people and being able to be honest. Like, it's okay if you get it wrong sometimes. So, yeah, just integrally speaking, it's a big deal.
And that definitely removes the space for performance.
No.
Now I don't have to perform.
I don't.
You've shown your vulnerability of being wrong. That gives me.
Yes.
If I'm wrong, I'm not ostracized or kicked aside.
Mhm.
Sure.
Talked about or thrown away. Like there's room and space for, things happen.
Absolutely.
And with me, I know me as a leader and working with people, I tell people all the time, listen, I'm okay with mistakes because we can fix them. I would rather you do it, make a mistake, let's talk about it, and then we learn from it.
Yeah.
And to be paralyzed and not do anything at all, or to, like you said, just be badly wrong out here.
Yeah.
And not have some type of dialogue so we can build and grow from. Because even in the workplace, there should be space for development.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. I know a lot of times in different spaces I've been in, I haven't felt that. Where there's room for development. It's almost like this needs to be like this, and that's it.
In the vein of talking about having a moment and misreading it, at what point, this is just a quick segue, but at what point do you, and if we're going to talk about holy, I want to make sure I'm quoting right, like holy grace-filled confrontation, at what point do you, confront a thing and do it in such a way, like to some degree where you're almost like sticking up for yourself or speaking up for yourself? Or because even sometimes in those misread moments, I know I've done this in the past. And again, going back to my upbringing and my background, I would not say anything.
Yeah.
I would just, the moment would be misread.
Definitely.
Instead of me speaking I would just eat it. But then not realizing that, at some point, you're going to trip over what you've been sweeping under the rug.
Hello.
True. So, it's 10 times worse. And then who knows who all is going to, be hurt because they declared it.
For sure.
And so, let's talk about what that looks like, about being intentional about picking up in situations and moments and not just letting it start by and letting it pile up.
Yeah, I think that robs the person who's holding things back. That robs them of freedom because, one, just because you eat it does not mean you are pondering it. You are pondering the situation over and over. What did they do? What could I have? What made this happen? So one, that robs you of freedom. And two, that robs the other person the explanation and the opportunity to apologize.
Yeah.
So,
because again, I think with Christ, grace, love-filled people, if one comes to me and say, man, you did this, that hurt me. You did this, and I know it wasn't your intention, but this is how I felt. Someone that is Christ-filled will meet that vulnerability with apology. When you are left to rehearse that situation, then you also rob the other person who did the infraction of the opportunity to really say what their thought was. What happened? How did that happen? To give their perspective, not to make your feelings feel invalid, but just to explain, this is what I meant. This is what my intention was. I know that didn't come across that way, so I'm sorry. That's a lose-lose for everybody. And the unfortunate thing is that happens more so the boss, the leader, whatever the case is, the person who's working with feels like a space to say, if I do say, I'll be in trouble, or whatever the case is. So they'll hold it in, make their own judgments, come up with their own realities, make their own conclusions about said person.
So you would basically have to just, internalize and just hold it. But I thank God for Pastor Khalil that gave me space. And, I was able to have a moment with him, and it was like, okay, this happened, not sure what's going on.
I remember that.
And he was able to take the time and explain to me exactly what happened, why it happened the way it happened.
Right.
And I walked away from that like, okay, like this is good. And I was good.
Right.
And it felt good to actually get it out and to speak up for myself.
Yeah.
Because, just ruminating on all of that stuff is just torture. It's torture.
Absolutely.
And like even in the mindset of, I'm just, gonna process this with God, you're still just steady and it's just growing into something and you're just a shaking soda.
And the crazy thing is when thinking of even that picture and that analogy, if you put the Mentos in a Dr. Pepper and you put the top on, if you don't put the top on, it comes out of the top. Yeah. If you put the top on, it starts to swell. And imagine it working with everyone that's swollen. Yeah. Such a toxic work environment, I think, to go all the way back to really allow that to be a full circle moment. If you see how taking ownership and accountability helps to build that rapport that makes the person feel comfortable to say that you crossed a boundary and it hurt me, and how that affects the culture.
Yeah.
All of those things work together to bring about that healthy work environment that you need if you're going to be productive in that.
For sure. And that brings us to kind of when you get the book and you see on the front, it says see differently, live differently. And this is why I feel like it's so important that we all check our lens and really look at the lens that we're, that we're looking through, because it could be the difference between you showing up as your authentic self.
Yeah.
And then it impacts how people view you.
Right.
And so it's important that we do the work, check our lens, because in every interaction, how you show up matters. And so if your lens is off, you're gonna see it. We have so many more episodes to come. I'm super excited about this. We have more groups that we'll be interacting with and getting their perspective about different social norms, as well as getting down to the real truth.
That's right.
Okay. And so if you have not, please head on over to Amazon and get your book today, Precious Perspective. Listen, I appreciate this time with you guys. Love you. Until next time.
Peace.
Stepping in the purpose, with a clear view.